Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is POV, and as you could tell by the title, I just want to talk about a series that's actually rather dear to me, rather personal, and just holds so much memories for me. A series that is obviously in manga form, at least already finished, the Naruto series. Now, for those of you wondering, yes, I will be covering spoilers about the end of the series. So if you're an anime only viewer, I will say just don't be too afraid to watch this video because I'll put the manga spoilers at the end of the video. So I won't talk about any spoilers before that. I'll make it very clear. Now, why do I bring Naruto up all of a sudden? Well, as you could probably tell from my channel, the latest Boruto chapter came out, the first Boruto chapter from a new artist being supervised by Masashi Kishimoto. And I feel like it's just a good time to talk about and reflect on the series in general, despite the anime not being finished. Now, what is Naruto? Naruto originally started as a manga for Weekly Shonen, if I'm not mistaken, and it covers the story about simply covers about the story about a boy ninja who has a demon fox in him, had him sealed in him, and who wants to become the Hokage. Now, to get to that journey to become the Hokage, which is basically like the leader of his village, he has to earn the respect from the villagers, and this comes with a whole lot of in between storytelling, in between fighting that happens because it is a battle shonen, if I'm not mistaken. The writer, as I mentioned, is Masashi Kishimoto, who did a one-off of the story originally, and it seemed like it was more based around wizards instead of ninjas, which would explain a lot where the series headed to eventually. Would I have minded if they went for wizards instead of ninjas? To be honest, no, because I don't think there would be too much of a difference compared to what we got right now. But anyway, the story is divided among two parts. You have the pre-time skip and the post-time skip. In the pre-time skip, you have obviously the little introduction to the story. Towards the end of the first part, it did feel like the story should have or could have ended, but they put like a little bit of a cliffhanger. Something happened that did introduce us to a second part. The second part of the story, post time skip, obviously the main characters get their training. We don't see them for a long while, and we see how they've grown, what new abilities they have gotten, and their development overall, their character development. Although I will say that the time skip didn't help much for the characters themselves to develop. We did get most of the character development within the story that we saw. Now, there is a lot of action, there is a lot of emotion. It is a battle shonen, as I mentioned. It's it does its battles very well, both in the manga and in the anime. And I typed these down like over here, like on my screen, and I have a shit ton of battles that I absolutely love from the manga and the anime. And I'll probably cover some within this video. But first, I want to get into the characters. The main protagonist is of course Naruto Uzumaki. He had the fox seal inside him. He goes through a journey to earn the respect from the villagers to become the Hokage of his village. He learns what it is to be a Hokage, and in the meantime, he gets a side story attached to him, a side quest that he accepts, and that is to retrieve his best friend from going to the bad side, Sasuke Uchiha. The three main protagonists of the story, although we kind of have two, I would say, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, a character who I can dive into and say a whole lot of stuff over, but I will skip about his background. All I will just say is that his clan got murdered by his brother. He is one of the last Uchiha remaining. His brother went to become a rogue ninja. He battled his brother, got his powers. We learned that the brother was a double agent. Basically, he murdered his clan for the village because the village was going to do a coup d'état. They were going to try and take over the village by themselves. So the brother was kind of like a good guy, Itachi. For you Metal Gear Solid fans, his story, the brother story, would be best described as the story from the boss in Metal Gear Solid 3. That's the best description that I can give you to keep things short. Now, aside of the three characters that I mentioned, you also have Kakashi, who's the group leader. I forgot to mention, these ninjas are all about like 16 years old tops by the end of the series. So, yeah, Kakashi, who's the team leader, and you have many other characters, either mentors, fellow sidekicks. You have fellow young shinobi who become friends of Naruto, who end up working with him, who become friends of his. And overall, I feel that the characters got properly developed aside from Sakura. Don't hate on me. Give me a chance to explain. Sakura felt like she was a missed opportunity, and reading from the interviews, hearing from what I've heard, could be rumors, so take my comments with a grain of salt. Apparently, the writer Kishimoto stopped caring that much about the character, and that's why so little backstory and effort was put into her. That's why you have other characters like Itachi, the rogue ninja who murdered his clan, who have a very deep backstory and very interesting backstory compared to, let's say, Choji, or Ino. There are so many characters that it's hard to make every character important. Therefore, you have certain characters that will pop out, like Itachi, as I mentioned. Naruto has a decent story. You have several side characters like Hinata, Shikamaru, who have interesting backstories and who, towards the end of the series, grow. I'm not saying they're the best characters. There are other series who have way better character developments for the protagonists and side characters, but this series does carry some interesting stories with it. Although I will say that there are some missed opportunities, and the missed opportunities would be, for example, Rock Lee. I feel that his character got underdeveloped. There could have been much more to him than what we got. I wanted to see more of the Hinata and Neji relationship, the branch family with the head family. Like, I wanted to see kind of more before we saw Neji die. Unfortunately, we didn't get any of that. And Rock Lee, yeah, I'll talk about Rock Lee's development a little bit later in the video as well. Now, when it comes to the fights, Naruto does live up to its expectations. In part one, you have some extraordinary fights. I'm not saying like, wow, they're so well thought, wow, they're so unique, but the combination between action and emotion that goes along with it, it's so well done. For example, the first one that I want to give is the Naruto and Sasuke versus the Haku fight. Very intense, very interesting fight because you also develop the characters a little bit more. You have this shaded Sasuke character who wants to frigging kill his brother for killing his clan. You have Naruto, who's a little punk who is still trying to develop to build cred, let's say, street cred. And these two characters, they hate each other, so to say. And throughout the fight, they're both kind of like working together, and then like Naruto's about to get hit by a shit ton of needles. For those of you who know the fight, like Haku throws needles, we know that part, and Sasuke jumps in front of him and takes all the shots. This is where Naruto gets pissed off. He awakens his tailed beast cloak for the first time, and it creates development for the characters because even Sasuke says it himself, like, my body just moved on its own. Like, there must have been like something good in him. This, aside of being this jaded little character, there must have been something good in him that made him want to protect his friends. Then we have, of course, the shooting exams, like the wonderful fight. Like, one of my personal favorite would be the Hinata versus Neji fight, just because of that whole backstory and character development that I was talking about. And because like I'm a Hinata ex Naruto fanboy, like just seeing Naruto cheer her on and like Hinata being taking those words into her and absorbing them and using those words to build up strength for that fight, even though she lost. Gara versus Rock Lee, I cannot say much more about that fight. That fight was so well animated, and the ending was just heartbreaking. Just having Guy Sensei come in between there, like him and Gara smacking the sand away before he gets a critical hit on him. My God, obviously the Gara versus Sasuke fight overall well intense. I would say that if the third Hokage versus Orochimaru fight wasn't so dragged out, like I would have put it as one of my top fights. Um, but regardless, still it was really well animated. The Sound Ninjas fight. Obviously, I cannot stop talking about part one without mentioning the Naruto versus Sasuke fight at the end of the series, or the first part, which was really well done and animated, and also created character development for both characters. Now, part two, in my opinion, has more interesting fights. I'm going to try and pick out some of my favorite ones because I have here a huge list. Oh, excuse me, of a lot of the fights that happened that went on. I think one of the ones that stands out for me more because of like the emotion behind it is the Team Shikamaru versus the Kakuzu and Hidan fight. And I'm not talking about the first one. I'm talking about the rematch after Asuma dies. Just the emotion going into it, like the reasoning, just seeing Kakashi go up against like two Akatsuki members, it's fucking amazing. And Shikamaru going one on one against Hidan was also crazy. Him being one of the only hidden leaf, one of the only ninjas in general to beat an Akatsuki member one on one was just crazy. Sasuke vs Deidara, both in the animation and in the manga, it looked absolutely great. Jiraiya versus Pain, also a good one, of course. However, the two fights that create so much character development are, of course, the Naruto versus Pain fight and the Sasuke versus Itachi fight, which were animated so well and so interesting. Like, I enjoyed Sasuke versus Itachi's fight mostly because of the constant rhythm that we got within it, building up towards the climax of like Sasuke about to getting his ass kicked, and then Itachi just dying last minute because of his sickness. Then you also have like the Naruto versus Pain fight, which has to be like one of my favorite moments in the series, which is the most badass introduction, and that is when when what's her name shit when Tsunade is going to fight Pain because he destroyed the village, and she's about to get hit by one of Pain's puppets, and Naruto just goes in there and just crushes that. Oh my God, I got chills through my spine when I saw that moment, and I still do when I watch that little bits and pieces like of that episode. It's honestly one of my favorite parts in the entire series. That's badass. I'm here moments. One of my favorite fights in general has to be though the Sasuke versus Killer Bee fight, just purely because of the animation. Straight up well done. Hinata versus Pain, of course, it was pure filler, but I am completely happy with that filler. It was well done. It pulled on my heartstrings that episode. Tobi versus Minato, Sasuke versus Akagi. There's so much shit that I could cover right now. I will mention, however, something that did let me down, and that is the Madara versus the Guy fight. I'm going to say that it let me down in the animation, and I'm free to talk about this because it's already been animated, and that is that I found that the animation did not do the manga justice. I wanted more out of it, and I believe I have that twice already with guy fights. The first one would be the guy versus Kisame fight, and that's fight two of the two fights that they have. So the final fight where Kisame dies, I wanted that to be. I wanted to get more filler fighting in between there, so that we got an extended fight, a more, I don't know, more detailed fight, I would say. I wanted more because I just love like fist characters, like characters that do fisticuffs, like who just straight up punch, who are purely physical, not magic, not shuriken, not all that shit, just pure fist fighting and kicking. I love that. I wish we could have gotten a little bit more out of the Guy versus Kisame fight, and that's what led me so much down with the Madara versus Guy fight as well. The fact that we didn't get more of that, we got what we got in the manga, and that's about it. And I liked it. Don't take me wrong. Like I liked it, but I wanted more. I wanted more filler. I wanted a Hinata versus Pain version of these fights. Like fighting that got added on that made sense for the characters, and which also leads the whole Guy versus Madara fight also leads to another problem that I'll talk in a bit, which also goes regarding Rock Lee's character development. But that's kind of like the only letdown. If I do have to talk about my favorite fight of the entire series, and I'm talking about manga and anime, I would say it would have to be the Obito versus Kakashi fight. I'm talking, of course, about the one where Kakashi sticks the Chidori through his guts. I absolutely love that fight. I rewatched that episode multiple times. It's my favorite fight of the entire series. Period. It's not my favorite episode because there's some stuff that goes in it. I think it cuts at the end. I think we still get like 15 minutes of like just Obito saying like I'm going to like being Obito being used by Madara to awaken the Ten Tails or some shit like that. But oh no, it's Obito awakening the Ten Tails. That's what happens. My bad. But now, if you were not too sure about where the series was heading, and I'm talking to the anime only viewers for this. Yes, Naruto and Sasuke do fight again. I'll talk about that and I'll talk about that actually right now. So just be wary. Like I'm going to talk full on spoilers right now for those anime only viewers. I'm talking to the manga readers and who also watch the anime and just this is all for you, okay? There are problems within the series that I have to bring up, and some of these problems I've thought of myself, some of these I read online, and some of these problems I've also spoken with my friend who tends to be look at a story in an objective point of view and not just subjective. So, and I have to recognize that these are serious issues looking back at the series right now. The first one would be like Obito being the villain. How the fuck did he survive the rock on him? Like, I tried to justify this by telling people like, hey, he awakened his Mangekyo as he was falling down, as the rock was falling on him. But that makes no fucking sense because he awakens it later as Kakashi, Shidori's Rin, and Obito sees it. That's when they both awaken their Mangekyo at the same time. On top of that, like to awaken in Mangekyo, you had to see your best friend die or see a friend die. And when the rocks were falling on him, like, no, Obito was the one dying. He was watching Kakashi run the fuck off. So yeah, Obito being the main villain. Don't get me wrong, I was for the whole Obito is the main villain. Obito is Toby. I was that guy like shouting that theory together with all the other people. But I have to admit, it makes little sense thinking about it right now. Then another problem, Kakashi's. Okay, yeah, since we're in spoilers, Kakashi's perfect Susanoo, it makes no fucking sense. And by that I mean that it seems like Kishimoto gave that to us just to give us a fanboy moment. Like, oh my god, Kakashi's awakening the man. This perfect Susanoo. Like, how the fuck would he be able to create the perfect Susanoo right off the bat? That's something that we got in the manga. We haven't gotten animated yet. From what I've seen in the Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, the perfect Susanoo also gets a light blue color and like electricity type of color. I don't like that. I wish he would have gotten like a gray color, a gray perfect Susanoo, because then it could have gone well with his being the son of the White Fang, like a little bit like a throwback to like the sword that he had in his bag and to his father. Unfortunately, we may not get that, seeing how the game made it light blue. Um, then Kakashi being since we're talking about Kakashi being called a copycat ninja, how many times do we really see him copy a move? Because I remember early in the series, he's being called Kakashi of the Sharingan, the copycat ninja, and all that shit. But I think the only real moves that we see him copy are the ones against Sabuza, and furthermore, I don't see anything else. I think that he developed Chidori on his own as a kid, so I don't think he copied that from anyone else. But the name doesn't make much sense for the character. Now, these are nitpicking, I admit that, but I'm just bringing up problems in general. Next up, how is Killer Bee still alive at the end of the series? According to the series rules, once you get your Jubi, your tail beast detached from you, you're supposed to die. The only reason why Kushina, Naruto's mother, was able to survive that long was because she had Uzumaki blood in her. And Killer Bee's not in Uzumaki as far as I'm concerned, and I think he makes it at the end of the series. They don't even use the revive the Rin Tensei jutsu, if I'm not mistaken. So why the fuck is he still alive? I think they extracted the 8 tails from him, right? Completely. Um, then the 10 tails, kind of like a letdown. I'll admit that. The 10 tails was supposed to be this really fearsome beast, this thing that we should all be worried about. Like, his is the most powerful being in the world. And I admit, yes, thinking about it now, it is like this plant that can suck the life out of you. Sure. I think it may have to do with the fact that the Black Setsu also manipulated the stone tablets that Madara was reading, so maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But at the end of the day, we also were told, I believe, from other ninjas that the 10 tails was like a myth, a legend among ninjas in general. So not just the Uchiha, that this being was the most powerful, that he would like destroy cities and all that shit. And at the end of the day, he just became a flower. That was a letdown. I mean, and now just to head over to another problem, and this is going back to the Guy versus the Madara fight. Guy opens up his 8 gates. This issue also connects to the issue that I have with Rock Lee's character development, and that is the fact that Guy should have died in the series. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the character himself, but just the fact that he awakens his 8 gates, he opens the 8 gates, and then the whole rumored 8 gates that you die after you use it, but you get immense power after it. It would have been nice to see him die and pass the torch on to Rock Lee. Even in the series, Rock Lee mentions, like, I'm not, like, because I think Gaara talks to him, and Rock Lee reacts to him saying, like, I'm not sad, because that would be disrespect to Guy. And I remember reading this week to week and thinking, like, oh my god, he's gonna die. Like, it's gonna be character development for Rock Lee, because he's gonna witness like his father figure dying in front of him to protect others, just like Guy's father died to protect him and his 2 other ninja pals. Missed opportunity for that. I mean, that's basically around mostly where my issue concerns regarding that fight. One, it's not as exciting as I wish it could have been, the fight in general, and the fact that Guy ends up surviving the fight was just like, even Kakashi could have had a little bit more character development if Guy had died, because that would be like one of his closest friends slash rivals dying in front of him as well. And it would have been, more of a lonesome situation for Kakashi, but you get 2 character developments in this war where so many ninjas were supposedly have died, and only one major character passed away, Neji. Um, Now, Madara's plan is another issue that many people may have had, and in my opinion, can be properly explained as to like Black Setsu manipulating the stone tablets, as I mentioned earlier, and him fucking around with the tablets, and that's why Madara read something incorrectly, misunderstood something, and carried out a plan that he was not aware of. But my issue is not that Black Setsu rewrote those instructions, so to say. My issue is the fact that Madara thought that this was the good idea to have everyone entrapped in this dreamland for the rest of their lives. He probably didn't know the consequences, like Kaguya, like Black Setsu mentions that all of them eventually become like white Setsus because all the chakra gets drained out of them. He probably didn't know the details of it, but just the whole concept of everyone being in a dreamland is some bullshit plan. Even for as good as a villain as Madara is, like speaking of Madara and Kaguya. This video is getting a little bit dragged on, but there's just so much shit that I need to get off my chest right now, which is the Kaguya versus Madara situation. Like, who made the better villain? Kaguya's story right now is being covered in the anime. We did not get in the manga, and I feel that these need to be separate from one another. So even like you cannot give the argumentation that the anime is doing the backstory of Kaguya, therefore making her a better character, because if I didn't know the anime existed, the story her becoming the main villain all of a sudden would be complete bullshit. So I'm not too crazy about her. Like, I wish Mara would have stayed the final villain. Um, but hey, I'm not gonna go too much into it because there's just so much shit that I could talk about that little aspect, the problems with Kaguya in the manga. We'll see how it leads in the anime, but hey. Now, Sasuke's constant side switching is also another issue in the series. First he's thinking about his friends, then he gets manipulated by Orochimaru. He kills Sasuke. Toby shows the truth to Sasuke, tells him the truth. Sasuke turns evil again. Then blah blah blah. Then he helps Naruto out. He turns evil again towards the end of the series, and since we're talking spoilers, this whole deal about him becoming the Hokage in the shadows, I can understand his reasoning for it, being like Itachi in a way, being that he's basically taking over Pain's plan in a way, in a sense, because he wants to be this bad entity that makes the other ninjas get together, become friends, because they have to fight, they have to stay strong against that bad entity. I can understand. I think that's kind of like where he was heading to. Maybe the anime will do a better deal in explaining that, but regardless, the random power-ups also kind of bullshit. I'm not gonna dive too much into it, but that in itself, just Naruto and Sasuke, this beats the entire purpose of the series in general, which was introduced to us in the beginning, which was Naruto being like this loser who had to work to get his powers, work to get his respect, in comparison to Sasuke, who was genius by a general genius, because he had the Sharingan, who gave him an advantage over other people, and Naruto had to work from the start basically to get where he was going. Then just getting the whole bullshit about them being the ancestors of the Sage of Six Paths and his brother, no, of the Sage of the Six Paths sons, and like this whole legacy bullshit. Um, it felt a little bit cliche, I have to admit that, and it destroys the purpose of work hard for your achievements. Even for Rock Lee, it destroys his development as well, because he works his ass off for nothing. He ends up getting injured, and yes, he's one of the best taijutsu ninjas in the village, or probably alive at the moment, but it doesn't. He never got the satisfaction of beating Neji. He never got the satisfaction of beating Sasuke, aside from the little introduction fight where we get Rock Lee introduced to us. So Mm. Now, I already brought this up earlier. Naruto being about ninjas could have been wizards like the Kishimoto one-off did. Another problem, Naruto being the bringer of peace, to which we get the current Naruto Boruto manga, um, and just have seen that war still wages. We'll see where the Boruto manga leads to, but like, no, like Naruto and Sasuke settling things down with one another does not bring peace to the world. So yeah, so these villains, these previous villains who were fighting for, who were supposedly creating Naruto for being the bringer of peace, was all for nothing, because Naruto right now, it's just that Hokage he's just a Hokage that's protecting his village with with a shit ton of powers. That's what he basically is right now in the Boruto series. That's what he kind of was in the Boruto movie as well, because they defeated Kaguya, they defeated Madara, but nope. In the Boruto movie, you get two more villains, which turn into one eventually. Now, aside from that, just to wrap this video up, um, those were kind of the issues that I have. But don't get me wrong, like, I love this series to death. It's not the first anime series that I was introduced to. It was not the first manga series that I was introduced to either. But I just followed it for a long while. I was introduced to the series through my cousin, which then made me, when I was living in Belgium, it helped me find a group of people who were also into it, and it made me find something to talk about with them. And this series, just in general, like, this holds so many precious memories. Um, just reading it, just I remember buying these volumes and just sometimes, like, just following the manga while watching the episode and seeing how they adapted everything. It's just a wonderful feeling. And it's something special to see this little fuckface right here go from a troublesome character eventually to becoming and working hard to become the leader of his village. Um, it's just a great thing to have been part of, to have witnessed the end of the story written by Kishimoto, and being there with the many fans online waiting for that last chapter. Um, Waiting for like 2 till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I believe that I didn't even sleep that night, and I was just waiting for the chapter to come out. And just the places where I was reading it, like, all the websites were getting shut down, like they were being overcrowded. Um, and just, I think the little, the cherry on top of the like, on top of the icing would have to be the fact that the story starts off introducing us to the character Naruto, who he is, what his story is going to be about, and this kind of made me cry. Um, and then at the end of the series, just having the conclusion in the same art style, just the conclusion of the story, him being Hokage. Uh, what can I say? There are characters that I absolutely loved. There are few characters that I disliked in the series, which means a lot for a series that has so many characters in general. But all I want to say is just, like, I know this is way too late, but just Kishimoto Sensei, if you ever watch this, um, thank you so much for the series. For all you Naruto fans, thank you for being part of the community, whether you were a Naruto X Sakura fan, or a Naruto X Hinata fan, or a Naruto X Sasuke fan. Um, Regardless of the couple wars that went on, the series, the community, regardless, I enjoyed being part of this. Now, Naruto's not my favorite series of all time, but it's in my top three, and aside from Berserk and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but it's mostly a nostalgia trip, I would say. Just there's not much more I could say. Just thank you for watching. If you're a Naruto fan, please type down in the comments below what were your favorite Naruto moments. What did you like most about the series? Was it the fighting, this character development? What were your problems with the series? If I brought up a problem and you think you have an answer for it, please feel free to type it down in the comments down below. My name is DLPOV. I do reviews of comics, of manga, anime, of movie retrospectives. I will be doing of games soon as well. Um, just make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you for watching, and sorry for having the video being so dragged out. I just love this series so much and wanted to get a chance to talk about it. Have a great day, week, night, whatever time zone you're in. Fuck it. Bye.